All righty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody is having a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, we did have Papa Powell speak today. And, I'm still going to say the market really hasn't made up its mind, but it is giving us some hints. So we're going to talk about what to look for moving forward. And honestly, I think Friday is going to be a big day, guys. If they close you like this or they sell you into the end of the week, I do think we are going to start selling all the way down here into next week. I don't think it's a reason to be ultra bullish over here on stocks. All of the Mag 7 stocks, they did end up selling or printing indecision candlesticks. I don't think that's the best look. Tesla's honestly the best one. And that's kind of saying something because Tesla is, being a up and down stock right now. Okay. But we're going to go over things in this video. I'm just going to, start the video off by saying, hey, uh, it's Friday. Okay, we have off tomorrow. Friday is going to really be the deciding factor on where we're likely going to go. We're going to kick it off here with SPY. We're going to go over QQ, Mag 7 stocks, and I have a few trade ideas just for you that I think are going to perform no matter what the market does on Friday. So that could be something to pay attention to, okay? Those will be at the end of the video. First things first, guys, I'm just going to point out the weekly candles right now. And, we do have these two upper wicks going on here. And, I'm just saying, we do have bearish news across the board. We did just have Powell coming in hot with a whole crap ton of indecision. From what I heard, there was nothing but indecision there. There was nothing but, he was stumbling over his words. He didn't know how to answer some questions. Um, it was indecisive. It really was. It was an uncertain thing to hear, and that's not really what you want to hear when everyone is looking to him to save the day. So, depending on how you are going to close out on Friday with this weekly candle, like if you close out like this, I assume you're probably going to be getting something like that, something like that, something like that. Regards, I'm assuming we are going to be going lower next week. Doesn't mean you can't get a dead cat bounce to start the week off next week, but I do think we're probably going to be going lower. All right, there are a few times where you printed, two upper wicks here and you just continue going on, but I'm arguing it's not the same as what we have over here. We're not at new all-time highs. We're not just, in a trending move right now. We are, consolidating. We're, getting really tight in this range over here. You're either going to bust it up or you're going to bust it down. And I'm going to jump over here to Mr. VIX and I'm going to point out this daily cloud did end up flipping bullish over here. We talked about this in yesterday's video. This was kind of the only thing suggesting to me, like the stocks just look bullish. Okay, they look bullish coming into today. Yesterday, we talked about in yesterday's video. The only thing that's telling me to be cautious here on the longs, all right, don't really look to be taking out new longs or anything like that, is VIX. Why? Because every time the daily cloud flips back into bullish territory over there, once you get the cloud flipping there from red to green, you typically do get a larger VIX spike, pullback or not. Like, if the markets were going to rip, I was going to look to sell that rip. Um, and, they still can rip, but I'm telling you, the weekly chart is looking heavy. Daily chart, all it takes is you coming underneath some key levels, underneath those daily 21 EMAs. And yeah, we got a recipe to start rolling over here, and VIX is going to end up having himself a field day. Best case scenario, VIX is now going to be going back and forth, which means we have volatility increasing, which means, we're going to have some very volatile chop. Okay, that's like, best case scenario here. Worst case scenario is going to be that VIX, just starts going up. Is it the worst case scenario? I don't think so, honestly. I think if we're going to get a massive buying opportunity, I'm personally going to be loading up on August calls if we do end up getting that VIX spiking and we do get the chance to buy the 200 daily moving average over here on SPY and QQQ. I think it's possible. I think it's still probable. And, now that we close like this and, with how those weekly candles are looking on SPY and QQ, I honestly do think it's more likely than not that VIX does end up spiking here into Friday and we continue going, but we're going to have to see how it closes on Friday. For all we know, all right, for all we know, this whole drop can be recovered by Friday and we close out the day up here. Okay. And if that happens, you close out up here, I assume you are going up here to all-time highs next week. Okay. So, Friday, it really is going to be important how we close out on Friday, how we react to what's going on here. Because either they're going to lose this 21 EMA, we're not going to hold 521.95, and we're going to come all the way back down here, all right? Or they're going to bust you up on Friday. It's one or the other, okay? But close like here or slightly lower. And yeah, I assume next week we are going to be selling, okay? And that's not so bad. You notice how this whole move so far, we haven't tested the 5, the 5 EMA here. We haven't. This is on the weekly time frame. Notice this whole time you're just riding up the 5 EMA. Guys, we haven't even tested it this whole time. All right, this is, quite a few bars here that we have not tested. It's like 7 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars. All right, 6 bars, not 7. That you have not even reverted to, the 5 EMA over here on the weekly time frame. That's typically something that always gets tested almost, every other week over here. It hasn't happened this time. It hasn't. You tested it here. Oh, you got a little extended. You pull back into it. Oh, you got extended over here. Okay, you pull back that week. You pull back that week. There you go. Like either, price is going to get this move and just come straight back up, or we are going to come a little bit further down into this area over here, maybe test the 200, maybe test the week of 21, and then we see that. All right, no matter what, I do think we're heading up to all-time highs. You have no business getting this close to all-time highs and not hitting it with or without a pullback. So if we get that, it's a clear as day buying opportunity, and we're going to be taking advantage of it. You can do whatever you would like with your money, but I'll tell you for a fact, I will be taking advantage of that move if we get it. Okay. All right. So that is really, the macro viewpoint we have here in this channel of where we're, going to be moving, how we're going to be playing this. If they do decide to bring you up here on Friday and they close you out either here or above 536.78, that doesn't look bad at all. Okay, it doesn't look bad at all. We're going to all-time highs very likely the following week. That's just how that would go. But if they don't do that and they close you here or down here, you're looking bad. On the downside, you have 527.92, 525.97, and then you're watching 521.95, which right around that daily 21 EMA. You will really want to see buyers hold here. But at the same time, if they even bring it down here tomorrow, I assume you were going to sell. And even if it's something like this, you come up, like maybe you have a wick on the day right there. You come up the next day, right over here. Maybe this is just going to form a wick and then you sell down through it. And the second you sell down through it, guys, when you lose the 21 EMA, bad things typically happen. You get a bit more of selling, or you at least at the best, you consolidate underneath it for a few days. But you lost over here, consolidate, and you had another leg down. Lost over here, you hit it with the break and retest, consolidate over here, and you had another leg down. Uh, the show goes on. But if you lose it, you want to recover that next day, and I just don't think that's likely because of what we just talked about in the weekly time frame. Okay, so that is what we're looking at on the downside over there for QQ. On the upside, guys, we have 532.55, which was today's high. Get above there, we're talking 535.37, 536.78, and then above there, 540.81 all-time high. And then over here on SPY, I am going to point out it's very similar over here to QQ. We're going to be watching the same exact thing. On the downside, we have that daily 21, and you want to be holding that. But, I'm telling you, if we close the week out like this, we're probably not going to be holding it, okay? On the downside, we have 595.54, 593.20, 591.05, 589.08, and then 583.24. And then we're just going to watch the 200-day all the way down there. On the upside, which is also going to be around that weekly 21 EMA. On the upside, we have today's high at 601.22. Above there, 605.37, 608.13, 610.78, and then 613.23. All right, so that's SPY. And again, guys, it really is going to come down to how we close out on Friday, okay? But again, fix over here, you can tell them above the moving averages. You had the bullish cloud over here. As of the other day, we warned you about it, and now we had it as of yesterday. We warned you about this, okay? And if we came back into it, we were going to expect buyers over here off the VIX. We also are sitting right above the 200-day, okay? So that is something, definitely to keep in mind here. We very easily could spike out of this. Very easily with how everything is set up, okay? All right, as far as Mag 7 stocks go, guys, I told you everything pretty much sold, or it consolidated with an indecision candlestick, but it's not looking pretty. It's not looking pretty. I'm not going to deny. Okay, so on GOOG, underneath, where you are right here, underneath 172.91, you have the daily 21 and the 200-day moving average. Underneath 172.91, you have 170.65 and then 168.24 down below. On the upside, you're watching for the reclaim of here 175.94, and then you really do just got to get a daily close above 178.13. I wouldn't get bullish here until you get a daily close above 178.13, and from that point you target up here 183.50. So that's GOOG. Amazon, like I said, also sold into the close. All right, so Amazon on the downside, we're going to be paying attention to 210.50. All right, and then 2881. We want to be holding to it. You know what? I'm going to actually adjust this level right here. We're not going to watch 2881. We're going to be watching 20962 over here on the downside. That's going to be right at the 21 EMA. If that does not hold, we're talking 20576. And then we have the 200-day moving average. On the upside, we have 214.84. We want to get a daily close above there. Meta. All right, Meta is something with two bullish catalysts over here, and I honestly think this has a chance at just holding up as everything else sells over here. But on the downside, we're really just watching 675.25. That's going to be around that daily 21 EMA. You're in this range over here. It's not looking as bad as other things over here. I still think this thing could give it a pop. But if everything else is going to sell, I'm assuming Meta is probably going to sell as well. Catalysts are not, but it's definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to on the downside. Um, Once we get that pullback, I'm talking August calls on Meta, Google, and Amazon. Those are my choice. Those are the ones that I would like here. And yeah, that's what we're watching. Coming over here to Apple, guys. This is the vulnerable one. This is my put hedge over here. You actually did get a pop as the rest of the market started selling today. So that is something to keep in mind here. I don't think it's going to matter in the end. I think it's looking very vulnerable. I think it's very coiled up over here in the weekly time frame. So I'm thinking if the market does sell Friday into next week, I think this thing really can get underneath 190 and potentially go 180 to 185. So that is what I'm playing over here on Apple. Tesla. All right. On the upside, guys, you're really just watching for the break above 335.50. Until you can break above 335.50, we talked about in yesterday's video, you got nothing to talk about over here on the long side. I do think it's getting ready to make a move to the long side, to the upside. But you really do need that break to really talk about anything bullish over here, okay? On the downside, you're watching 313.30. Underneath there, you have the 200-day at 309. Okay, if you don't hold that, we're talking 295. It's Tesla. NVDA. All right, closed out strong on the day. Above 145, we're talking 146.54, 148.97, and 153.13. Really doesn't look all that bad. It's definitely the strongest one that I'm going to point to in this video. On the downside, just watch for a break underneath today's low at 143.12, and underneath there you could target 140.85 and then 139.62. Microsoft, this is another one that doesn't look all that bad. You just have this, little range going on here, $7, just about 7.50. This thing can get a pop up to 4.90 if you can break above 4.80.42 and get a daily close above there. It's probably all going to happen in one day, just like it did over here, okay? You get that little one-day pop. You keep just stair-stepping your way up over here. You had one here, boom. You had one here, you're about to get that. You had one over here, boom. You had one here, boom. But you're probably just going to keep repeating this pattern. But if you do manage to get a daily close underneath this trend line here, that's when you're going to start looking for downside. And if you can get a daily close underneath the 21 EMA here, that's also when you look for more downside. Okay, so those are the Mag 7 stocks, guys. I'm really not going to say they look all that pretty. I know NVIDIA and Microsoft are popping up, but let's just look at the overall Mags ETF. It's a straight up indecision candlestick. Okay, we don't know which way we're going to go here. Context clues kind of tells me that downside is more likely than upside from here, but I could be wrong. Okay, I could be wrong. I told you exactly what to be watching out for the upside over here. And depending how we close on Friday, like we could start looking for upside again. But at the same time, context clues are telling us to look for downside if we get the right close over here on the weekly candle on Friday, which is in 2 days. We have tomorrow off. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. All right, trade ideas going into Friday and into next week. These are the strong stocks right now. I just point out NVIDIA and Microsoft. Those are the two you want to focus on as far as the Mag 7 stocks on the long side. All right, this NVIDIA not looking all that bad. And then you got Microsoft ready for that next $7 leg up right there. Can push 490. All right, so those are the Mag 7 stocks, but let's talk individual tickers. CRWV. Okay, you did get the breakout yesterday and you did get the break and retest. You held it today, close rate at 170. Okay, not the reaction that I was looking for, but at the same time, I do think a 2-week range over here of $35, 34 bucks over there, I think it is going to lead to further upside. I think we can get 200 over here, okay? Big psychological level, and depending how you close out the week, it looks like that's where it wants to go. CRWV coming over here to Hood, okay? Follow the yellow brick road. Strong stock. Okay, strong stock over here. It looks like it wants to break up to all-time highs above 77.80. We are talking 85 bucks. Okay, so immediately I'm just gonna point out the range over here. You got like about $6 of range. While above here, $6 brings you all the way up here to 80, just about $84. Okay, and at that point, 85 all-time high. It's acting as a magnet. I imagine once you break all-time highs, you're going 90 to 100 bucks pretty quick. So yeah, it is it's about to be on a tear over the coming weeks. 85 bucks is definitely on the table, but I'm talking literally on Friday, it's probably going to get a gap and go. You got a big all-time high. Well, not all-time high, but you broke the highs over here on this day right here. You peaked your head just like we got over here. You peaked your head after this little range. Okay, and that next day you actually did get the measure move from that range. And you had a $4.75 move, 7% move. Okay. Another one right over here. Okay, once you broke out, first day you did have $3.50. You continued and you just kept going vertical over here. You were off to the races. Over here, okay, once you broke out over here, yeah, you gapped up a little bit, you pulled back, but in the end of the day, 3 sessions later, you were up 3 points. Okay, you broke out over here, you started ripping. All these things, yeah, you got a pretty vertical move just started off. That's when it was 34 bucks. That's a 10% move. You get a 10% move now, things at all-time highs. Okay, so watch it. Hims over here, guys, consolidating this bull pennant, bull flag, whatever you want to refer to this as. We're looking for a daily close above 61.67, and at that point, we're talking 65.89, and then above there, get a daily close above there, we're talking all-time highs. I think when this thing goes, it's just going to hit it with a 10% day. I'm in this one. It's light. It's very light, but I will say I do think this thing is getting ready to go. And it's one that usually goes with the market or off of a catalyst. So if the market does pull back, maybe this thing does comes over here. But if it just wants to hit it with a little short squeeze move on Friday, then we'll see how this thing goes. I think it can get going. Definitely it's set up to do so. I would like it to have the help from the market, but like I said, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. Bros, it did not get the most bearish close compared to the market today, and it is avoiding the daily cloud flipping bearish. I do just want to say I think this can get a pop if it gets above 71.38 right over here. This little 3-day range you got going on. Get above 71.38, we're talking 74 bucks. Oklo, you almost came down to our level over there, 59.14. The low of the day was over here at 59.62. Above today's high, we're going to be talking up here at 68.91. So break above 63.96, we're talking 68.91. Other than that, guys, that is what I have for you guys today. There was this absolute monster over here. There was also Coin, who is a monster. I wouldn't be chasing Coin. I'm just letting you guys know. I just wouldn't. It doesn't mean it can't go. And dips are probably going to be buying opportunity in the short term, just like it was over here. But yeah, I don't think it's worth chasing right here. But the catalyst there is they get 50% of Circle's revenue over here. That is the catalyst, and they also have a stake in Circle, and Circle is going absolutely berserker, up 33% on the day. It is a $50 billion market cap, $44 billion market cap right now, and yeah, I mean if this thing keeps going, that's Coin's catalyst. Coin keeps going with it. All right, and I think this thing goes a little bit higher. That's that, but I wouldn't be touching it. I really wouldn't. Aside from that, guys, I gave you Reddit before the breakout, I believe, in the weekly update. At a minimum, it was on the focus list for the Discord members. I think I gave it to you guys in the weekly update, but it definitely was. That's why you have these gray levels right here. Right off the bat, you gapped up and went to TP number 1 up there, and you sold off. And guess what? You got bought up right from the hourly 21 EMA, and now you're flagging. It's probably going to continue. Okay? That's what I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you would like to come trade with me, that link is going to be down below. You can now pay for 1 week at a time. So if you want to give it a little trial period there before actually trying it out and committing, that is there. But I will be live every day. With that being said, guys, enjoy your day off tomorrow. Relax, okay? And we will come and take a nice, fresh approach to the market on Friday. You know what you're looking at. And with that being said, I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.